The crystal towers of Zenthari Prime reached toward the stars like frozen lightning. Inside the tallest spire, 12 different alien species gathered in the Great Chamber. This was the Galactic Council, the most powerful group in the known universe. For 3,000 years, they had kept peace among the stars. Each species had their place in the Grand Order. The Zenthari were the wise elders who settled disputes with their ancient knowledge. The Korthek were the warriors who enforced the peace with their massive fleets. The Voidans were the scientists who pushed the boundaries of technology. Every race knew their role, and the system worked perfectly until the humans arrived. Captain Jake Morrison stepped off the transport ship New Horizon onto the crystal platform. He wore his best uniform, pressed and clean, with the flag of Earth on his shoulder. Behind him walked his small team. Lisa Chang carried the diplomatic files in her leather case. Ben Parker hauled the heavy scanner equipment, always curious about new technology. Colonel Amy Rodriguez kept her hand near her weapon. Even though weapons were not allowed in the council chamber, they had traveled for months to reach this place. Earth had finally developed faster-than-light travel, and the human government wanted to join the galactic community. Morrison felt excited but nervous. This was humanity's first real contact with alien civilizations. The council chamber was enormous. 12 different seating areas surrounded a central platform, each designed for a different alien species. The Zenthari sat on cushions of soft light. The Korthik stood behind metal barriers. The Voidans floated in spheres of blue energy. Morrison had studied images of these races, but seeing them in person was overwhelming. Elder Vexthalen spoke first. His voice was ancient and dry, like wind through desert rocks. "Welcome, humans of Earth. We have observed your species for some time. You have achieved interstellar travel, which grants you the right to address this council." Morrison stepped forward and bowed slightly. "Thank you, Elder. We come seeking friendship and trade with the galactic community. Humanity has much to offer." Lisa Chang opened her case and pulled out samples of human art, music, and literature. She had spent years preparing this presentation. "We bring gifts from our world. These represent the best of human culture and creativity." The council members looked at the offerings with mild interest. A Zenthari scholar examined a painting of a sunset over mountains. A Voidan researcher scanned a recording of classical music. Their reactions were polite but not impressed. War Chief Gregther of the Korthek laughed, a sound like grinding metal. "What weapons do you possess? Show us your military might." Colonel Rodriguez activated a holographic display showing human warships and weapons. The images showed Earth's most advanced military technology. Missile systems, laser weapons, and nuclear-powered ships filled the air above the platform. The Korthek war chief studied the display for a moment, then laughed. "Again. These are toys. Your ships are slow. Your weapons are weak. Your soldiers use simple tactics." He gestured to other council members. "Any one of our fleets could destroy your entire world in a single day." Research Minister Kalanara of the Voidans examined Ben Parker's scanner with her tentacles. "This technology is primitive. You still use chemical rockets and basic electronics. We had better systems 10,000 years ago." Morrison felt his team's frustration but kept his voice calm. "We may not be the most advanced species, but we are willing to learn. We seek only peaceful cooperation." Elder Vexthalen nodded slowly. "Your desire for peace is admirable. The Council has discussed your situation and reached a decision. We offer you protection under our guidance." The Elder activated a holographic star map showing 3 small solar systems at the edge of Council space. "These worlds are suitable for human settlement. You may establish colonies there under our oversight. In return, you will provide raw materials and agricultural products. Our ships will protect you from threats." Lisa Chang leaned forward. "What about our existing colonies?" "Humans have already settled on several worlds." "Those settlements are in dangerous regions," another council member replied. "You will relocate to the protected zones for your own safety." Morrison felt something cold in his stomach. "And our military forces?" "Limited to planetary defense only," War Chief Gregther declared. You have no need for warships under our protection. Any expansion beyond your assigned systems requires our approval. The human delegation exchanged glances. This was not the partnership they had hoped for. It sounded more like surrender. We request time to consider your generous offer, Morrison said carefully. The council members looked surprised. Elder Vextalen's ancient eyes narrowed. This is not a negotiation, Captain. This is how new species are integrated into galactic civilization. You should be grateful for our protection. That evening, the human team gathered in their quarters on the orbital station. Lisa Chang paced back and forth, her diplomatic training warring with her instincts. Maybe we should accept. We can work within their system, gain their trust, and gradually earn more freedom. Ben Parker shook his head. Did you see how they looked at our technology? They think we're primitives. If we accept this deal, we'll never be anything more than their servants. Colonel Rodriguez had been quiet during the council session, but now she spoke. They're treating us like children. Dangerous children who need to be controlled. Morrison stared out the window at the stars. Somewhere out there was Earth with its 5 billion people looking to their leaders for guidance. The decision he made here would affect humanity's future for generations. What do you think, Ben? Morrison asked. Can we survive on our own? The scientist looked thoughtful. Their technology is more advanced, but not impossibly so. We've been studying their transmissions for years. I think we can close the gap faster than they expect. The next morning, the human delegation returned to the council chamber. Morrison stood straight and looked each council member in the eye. We have considered your offer carefully. We are grateful for your concern for our welfare. Elder Vextalen smiled, thinking he had won. Then you accept our protection? No, Morrison said clearly. We decline? Humanity chooses to remain independent. The chamber fell completely silent. In 3,000 years of council history, no species had ever refused their protection. The alien faces showed shock, confusion, and growing anger. You misunderstand, Elder Vextalen said, his voice no longer friendly. This was not a request. This is how things are done. Morrison felt his team tense behind him, but he kept his voice steady. Then let me be clearer. We choose freedom over safety. We will make our own way among the stars. War Chief Gregther rose from his position, his massive form towering over the human delegation. You are making a terrible mistake. The galaxy is dangerous for unprotected species. That may be true, Morrison replied. But we would rather face danger as free beings than live safely as slaves. The word slaves hit the chamber like a physical blow. Several council members began talking at once in their different languages. The translation system struggled to keep up with the angry voices. Elder Vextalen raised his hand for silence. You are young and foolish. Perhaps you need time to understand your place in the galactic order. Perhaps a demonstration would be educational. Morrison felt the threat in those words, but he did not back down. We understand perfectly. We choose to stand on our own. As the human delegation prepared to leave, Ben Parker's scanner continued its quiet work. The device looked simple and primitive to alien eyes, but it was recording everything. Every word, every gesture, every tactical discussion was being stored for analysis. The council members watched the humans depart with a mixture of amusement and irritation. They had dealt with stubborn species before. A show of force usually brought them to their senses quickly. War Chief Gregther volunteered his fleet for the task. My ships will remind these humans of their proper place. It should not take long. Elder Vextalen nodded his approval. Make it educational, but not too destructive. We want them to learn, not to be eliminated. As the council session ended, none of the alien leaders noticed the small recording device that Ben Parker had left behind. It would continue transmitting for weeks, sending every secret discussion back to human intelligence. The stage was set for a conflict that would change the galaxy forever. The council had made their greatest mistake in 3,000 years of rule. They had threatened humanity's freedom, and humanity had never lost a war when their freedom was at stake. 6 months had passed since Captain Morrison refused the Council's protection. The human colonies were growing stronger every day. New Texas had become a thriving agricultural world where farmers worked the rich soil under alien stars. New Geneva buzzed with research laboratories and universities. New Cairo's factories produced goods that human traders carried to distant markets. The Fourth World, Haven, remained officially empty, but satellites would have detected massive construction projects if anyone had been looking closely. Governor Pete Williams stood on the balcony of his office building, watching the morning sun rise over New Texas. The former Marine general had traded his military uniform for civilian clothes, but his bearing remained straight and proud. Below him, the capital city of Liberty stretched across the valley, markets filled with traders from a dozen human worlds. Children played in parks while their parents worked in offices and workshops. It was a peaceful morning that would not last. The first sign of trouble came from the orbital monitoring station. Lieutenant Sarah Torres was drinking coffee and reading sensor reports when her screen exploded with contact alerts. 12 large signatures dropping out of hyperspace at the edge of the system, then 40 smaller ones. "Sir, we have incoming ships," she called to her supervisor. "Big ones, military configuration." The transmission came 30 minutes later. War Chief Gregther's voice boomed through the communication system, translated into English by computer programs. "Attention human colonists of New Texas, you will surrender immediately and prepare for relocation to Council-approved worlds. Resistance will result in total annihilation." Governor Williams received the message in his office. His staff gathered around him, faces pale with fear. These were farmers, teachers, and shopkeepers who had come to New Texas seeking a better life. They had no experience with interstellar warfare. Williams studied the tactical display showing the Korthak fleet. 52 ships against a world with no military defenses. Any reasonable person would surrender immediately, but Pete Williams was not reasonable. He was a human who had sworn to protect his people. "Open a channel," he ordered. The communications officer activated the transmitter with shaking hands. Williams looked directly into the camera, his voice steady and clear. "This is Governor Williams of New Texas. This is our home now. Come and take it." The orbital bombardment began 2 hours later. Korthak plasma cannons rained fire from the sky, targeting government buildings, industrial facilities, and transportation networks. The attacks were precise and devastating, designed to cripple resistance without killing too many civilians, but when the Korthak troops landed, they found empty streets and abandoned buildings. The humans had vanished like ghosts. War Chief Gregther studied the tactical reports with growing frustration. His ground forces had secured the major cities without opposition, but they controlled empty shells. The humans had disappeared underground, taking their equipment and supplies with them. "Find them," he ordered his commanders. "They cannot have gone far." The search began immediately. Korthak soldiers in powered armor swept through the abandoned settlements, using advanced sensors to detect human heat signatures. What they found was a maze of tunnels and bunkers that extended for miles beneath every major city. The humans had been preparing for this day from the moment they first set foot on New Texas. The first ambush came on the third day. A Korthak patrol was investigating what appeared to be a storage facility when the building exploded around them. Kevin Ross, a young farmer who had learned explosives handling in the colonial mining operations, watched from a hidden position. As alien soldiers were buried under tons of concrete and steel, the attacks escalated quickly. Human colonists emerged from their underground hideouts to strike at isolated Korthak units, then disappeared back into the tunnel networks before reinforcements could arrive. They used knowledge of their own world against invaders who had never fought in such terrain. Dr. Susan Blake ran a mobile medical station that moved through the underground passages, treating wounded resistance fighters. The former emergency room physician had volunteered to stay behind when the evacuation began, knowing that people would need medical care during the fighting. "How many wounded today?" she asked her assistant, a veterinarian named Mike Johnson, who had learned field surgery out of necessity. 12, he replied, checking his notes. 3 serious, 9 minor. We're running low on pain medication, Blake nodded grimly. The humans were fighting bravely, but they were paying a price. Every day brought new casualties as colonists armed with hunting rifles and improvised weapons faced alien soldiers in advanced combat armor. The Korthek were paying a price too. Their casualties mounted as human resistance fighters proved more dangerous than expected. The colonists displayed a disturbing enthusiasm for warfare that shocked their alien attackers. They booby-trapped buildings, set elaborate ambushes, and fought with a ferocity that the supposedly superior Korthek found unsettling. Gregthur received daily reports of his losses with growing anger. "These are farmers and shopkeepers," he snarled at his staff. "How are they killing trained soldiers?" His intelligence officer, a veteran of dozens of campaigns, looked uncomfortable. "Sir, they fight differently than any species we have encountered. They do not seem to fear death. They use tactics that risk their own lives to inflict maximum damage on our forces." The war chief studied surveillance footage of human attacks. He watched a teenage girl named Jenny Adams destroy a Korthek transport vehicle with a bomb strapped to her own body. The sight disturbed him in ways he could not explain. What kind of species sacrifices its young in warfare? He asked. "The kind that will never surrender," his officer replied. "The siege continued for 2 weeks. The humans fought with desperate courage, but they could not win against superior numbers and technology. One by one, their strongholds fell to overwhelming force. The underground passages became death traps as Korthek soldiers learned to navigate the tunnel systems. The final battle took place in the old mining complex, where the colonists had made their last stand. Governor Williams led the defense personally, an aging Marine general fighting, alongside farmers and teachers who had become soldiers out of necessity. The complex fell after 6 hours of fighting. Williams was captured along with 300 surviving colonists. The rest were dead, buried in the tunnels they had fought so hard to defend. Gregthur stood in the ruins of the mining complex, surveying the cost of his victory. Nearly 4,000 Korthak soldiers were dead or wounded. Entire platoons had been wiped out by human suicide attacks. The supposedly easy conquest had become a grinding nightmare that would haunt his dreams for years to come. Why did they fight so hard? He asked Governor Williams during the interrogation. "You could have surrendered and lived peacefully under our protection." Williams looked at his captor with steady eyes. "Because some things are worth dying for. Freedom is one of them." The war chief did not understand, but he felt something cold in his chest when he heard those words. He had conquered dozens of worlds, but he had never faced an enemy that chose death over surrender. As the Korthak fleet prepared to leave New Texas, taking their prisoners to Council space, they failed to notice several small human ships escaping from hidden bases on the planet's outer moons. The vessels were fast and stealthy, designed to avoid detection by exactly the kind of sensors the Korthak used. The ships carried more than just survivors. They carried detailed recordings of the battle, tactical analysis of Korthak weapons and armor, and most importantly, a message that would spread throughout human space faster than any alien fleet could travel. The message was simple, but devastating. They came for our people. This is war. Across the human colonies, the news sparked something that the Galactic Council had never seen before. Millions of humans volunteered for military service. Factories that had been producing civilian goods switched to weapons production. Research facilities that had been studying alien technology began developing countermeasures. The Council species had made a critical error. They had attacked humanity's people, and now they would learn what humans were truly capable of when their families were threatened. In the deepest bunkers of Earth, military leaders activated plans that had been decades in the making. Admiral Kate Sullivan reviewed fleet deployments with grim satisfaction. The secret shipyards had been working around the clock since the first contact with the Council. Now it was time to show the galaxy what human engineering could accomplish. The New Texas incident, as historians would later call it, marked the end of humanity's peaceful expansion into the galaxy. The Korthak had won their battle, but in doing so, they had awakened something that would change the balance of power forever: war. was coming and humanity was ready. The stars around Korthik Prime had never seen anything like it. 50 human warships dropped out of hyperspace at the edge of the system, their hulls gleaming with weapons that the Galactic Council had never imagined humans could build. At the center of the fleet, the massive battleship Defiance dwarfed everything around it, a mountain of metal and fury that announced humanity's arrival in the war. Admiral Kate Sullivan stood on the bridge of her flagship, watching the tactical displays. Update as her fleet moved into attack formation. She was a small woman with gray hair and sharp eyes, but her presence filled the command center. Every officer on the bridge knew they were making history. "Admiral, we're receiving transmissions from Korthik Defense Forces," reported communications. "Officer Tim Carter? They're demanding we identify ourselves and state our intentions." Sullivan smiled grimly. "Open a channel to all frequencies. I want everyone in this system to hear what I have to say." The transmission went out on every radio. Frequency, every communication network, every emergency channel in the Korthik home system. Sullivan's voice was calm and clear, but underneath it was the promise of violence. "This is Admiral Kate Sullivan of the Human Federation Navy. We have come for our people. We have come for justice, and we have come to show you what happens when you attack innocent human civilians." The Korthik response was immediate. Defense platforms around their homeworld came online, their weapons charging for battle. Patrol ships moved to intercept the human fleet. Warning broadcasts filled the communication channels, ordering the humans to surrender or be destroyed, but the humans did not surrender. They did not even slow down. Captain Ryan Foster commanded the destroyer Vengeance, one of 12 fast attack ships that formed the fleet's spearhead. His crew was young and eager, volunteers from the outer colonies who had joined the Navy after hearing about New Texas. "All weapons ready, sir," reported his tactical officer. A former mining engineer named Lisa Park, who had learned to operate military equipment in 3 months of intensive training. "Target the patrol squadron," Foster ordered. "Let them see what human weapons can do." The Vengeance opened fire at maximum range. Particle beam weapons that had been developed in secret for 20 years lanced out across space, striking the Korthik patrol ships with devastating accuracy. The alien vessels, which had seemed so powerful during the attack on New Texas, exploded like toys hit by hammers. The Korthik patrol leader barely had time to send a distress signal before his ship was reduced to expanding debris. His final transmission carried a note of panic that spread through the Korthik defense network. "They have weapons we do not understand. Request immediate reinforcement." Supreme War Chief Drakmore received the report in his command center deep inside Korthik Prime. He was the ultimate military leader of his species, a veteran of 50 campaigns who had never known defeat. The idea that a few human ships could threaten his home system seemed impossible. "Activate the home fleet," he ordered. "Every ship in the system. These humans will learn the price of challenging the Korthik military." 300 ships converged on the human task force. Dreadnoughts that could destroy cities with single volleys. Cruisers armed with plasma weapons that could melt through any known armor. Fighter squadrons that had never lost a battle in 1,000 years of warfare. It should have been the end of the human fleet. Instead, it became the beginning of the Korthik, military's worst nightmare. The humans fought like no enemy the Korthik had ever faced. Instead of forming battle lines for a massive engagement, they broke into small groups that attacked independently. They ignored enemy warships to focus on communication relays, supply depots, and command centers. Within an hour, the mighty Korthik home fleet found itself blind, deaf, and running out of ammunition. Dr. Tony Martinez commanded the human cyber warfare team from his position aboard the Defiance. The former computer programmer had volunteered for military service the day he heard about the attack on New Texas. His specialty was breaking into alien computer systems, and he was very good at his job. "I'm into their main battle network," he reported to Admiral Sullivan. "Their security is like a locked door made of paper. Shall I shut down their weapons?" "Better," Sullivan replied. "Turn them against each other. Martinez smiled as his fingers flew over the keyboard. Korthek ships suddenly found their own missiles targeting friendly vessels. Gun turrets rotated to fire on their neighboring ships. Chaos spread through the alien fleet as their own weapons became their enemies. Captain Nancy Wright led a squadron of human fighters against the Korthek dreadnought Thunder of War. Her pilots were outnumbered 10-1, but they had advantages the enemy did not expect. Human reflexes were faster than Korthek reaction times. Human tactics were more flexible than alien doctrine. And human determination was something the galaxy had never seen before. Break formation and engage at will, Wright ordered her pilots. Show them how humans fight. The battle that followed defied every rule of space combat known to Council military science. Human fighters darted between the massive Korthek ships like deadly insects, striking at weak points that alien engineers had never thought to protect. They used the enemy's size against them, hiding in the shadows of the giant vessels while launching precision attacks on critical systems. Fighter pilot Bobby Chun managed to fly his small craft directly into the Thunder of War's main weapon port, detonating his entire missile load inside the barrel of the massive plasma cannon. The explosion tore through the dreadnought's forward sections, leaving it helpless and drifting, but the humans' greatest weapon was not their technology or their tactics. It was their willingness to do whatever it took to win. When Lieutenant Mary Davis's fighter was disabled by enemy fire, she used her ship's last moments to ram a Korthek cruiser at maximum speed. The impact destroyed both vessels, but it also created a gap in the enemy formation that other human ships exploited. Ruthlessly, the battle reached its climax when Admiral Sullivan ordered the Defiance to demonstrate humanity's most advanced technology. The massive battleship's weapon systems came online, revealing particle beam cannons that could punch through any known armor and defense shields that repaired themselves faster than enemy weapons could damage them. All batteries fire at will, Sullivan commanded. The Defiance lived up to its name, standing alone against 5 Korthek dreadnoughts and reducing them to scrap metal in less than 10 minutes. The ship's hull, which had appeared to be ordinary steel, revealed itself as an advanced composite that could absorb energy weapons and convert the power to strengthen its own systems. Supreme War Chief Drakmor watched his fleet die from his command bunker deep inside Korthek Prime. In 6 hours, 300 ships had been reduced to fewer than 50. The humans had not just won the battle. They had crushed the most powerful military force in Council space with casual efficiency. The final blow came when human Marines in advanced combat armor boarded his flagship to rescue the prisoners from New Texas. The soldiers moved through Korthek ships like unstoppable forces of nature, their weapons cutting through alien defenses as if they were made of tissue paper. Marine Sergeant Carlos Lopez led the rescue team that found Governor Williams and the other New Texas survivors. The former Marine general was weak from months of imprisonment, but his eyes blazed with pride when he saw the human soldiers. "About time you got here," Williams said with a smile. "Sorry we're late, sir," Lopez replied. "We had to build a fleet first." As the human task force prepared to withdraw from Korthek space, Admiral Sullivan broadcast one final message that would be remembered throughout galactic history. "We did not start this war, but we will finish it. Any species that harms human citizens will face the same fate. You have seen what we can do when we hold back. Pray you never see what we can do when we don't." The Korthek home fleet was destroyed. Their homeworld's defenses were in ruins. Their prisoners had been rescued. And the galaxy had learned that humanity was far more dangerous than anyone had imagined. In council chambers across the galaxy, alien leaders watched the battle recordings with growing fear. The humans had revealed themselves as something that challenged every assumption about galactic warfare. They were not just another species seeking dominance. They were something entirely new, and they were very, very angry. The war was just beginning, and humanity had fired the first shot that would echo across the stars for generations to come. The emergency meeting of the Galactic Council took place on Nexus Station, a massive space platform floating in the emptiness between star systems. For the first time in 3,000 years, every species sent their highest military leaders, along with their diplomats. The great chamber buzzed with translated voices as 12 different alien races tried to understand how their perfect order had collapsed so quickly. Elder Vexthalen looked older than his 4,000 years as he called the meeting to order. The ancient Zenthri's hands shook slightly as he activated the holographic display showing human attack patterns across council space. Red markers indicated 17 different strikes in just 3 months since the Battle of Korthik Prime. The situation has become critical, the Elder announced to the assembled delegates. The humans are not behaving like any species we have encountered before. They do not seek territory or resources. They appear to be fighting for something we do not understand. General Carvex of the hegemony stood to address the assembly. His species were known as the builders of impossible fortresses, creators of defenses that had never been breached in 1,000 years of warfare. The general's report sent shock waves through the chamber. The fortress world of Ironhold has fallen, he announced, his voice heavy with disbelief. 200 human soldiers infiltrated our most secure installation through the underground river system. They used equipment that allowed them to breathe water for hours. Our sensors never detected them. He activated a tactical display showing the attack pattern. The assault team was led by a human named Colonel Daniel Murphy. They sabotaged our planetary defense grid from the inside, then vanished before our response teams could locate them. The entire operation took less than 6 hours. Research Minister Kelinara of the Voidens spoke next, her tentacles trembling with what her species experienced as fear. Our computer networks have been completely compromised. The humans are not just more advanced than we thought. They are operating on principles we do not understand. She showed surveillance footage from the attack on Voiden Prime's central data core. A human specialist named Claire Thompson led a cyber warfare team that penetrated our most secure systems. They did not just steal information. They left behind programs that continue to adapt and evolve, gathering intelligence faster than we can develop countermeasures. The chamber fell silent as species after species reported similar defeats. The aquatic depths dwellers described human submarines that operated in their deepest oceans using technology that surpassed their own. The crystalline resonance had their mental communication networks, disrupted by human specialists who somehow understood psychic warfare better than telepathic species. The gaseous void-touched reported the most shocking development of all. Humans had built space stations in the heart of stellar storms, environments that should have been impossible for solid matter beings to survive. The stations served as forward bases for attacks on void-touched territory, proving that human engineering capabilities far exceeded Council estimates. War Chief Gregther, promoted after his predecessor's death at Korthik Prime, presented the military assessment that terrified every delegate in the chamber. We face an enemy that has been preparing for this conflict for decades while we dismiss them as primitives. Every tactical doctrine we possess has been countered. Every strategic advantage we thought we had has been neutralized. He activated a holographic map showing human fleet movements across the galaxy. They know our capabilities better than we know theirs. They have detailed intelligence on every species, every military installation, every weakness in our defenses. This level of preparation suggests they have been studying us for much longer than we realized. The evidence was overwhelming and terrifying. Human agents had been embedded in council space for years, possibly decades. They had established diplomatic contacts with minor species that the council had ignored or dismissed. Most shocking of all, several client species had openly declared their independence to join Human Space. Commander Zixara of the Twilight Legion reported the most devastating news. The reptilian score have abandoned their protectorate status. The insectoid hive builders have declared for humanity. 12 other minor species have chosen to leave council protection for human partnership. She paused, her voice filled with something approaching despair. They are not just fighting us militarily. They are offering freedom to species we have protected for centuries. Our entire system of order is being challenged. The debate that followed revealed how desperate the council had become. Some delegates argued for immediate negotiation, believing that humanity might accept reasonable terms for peace. Others demanded total mobilization, calling for every ship and soldier in council space to be committed to a final decisive battle. The Korthic delegation pushed for unlimited warfare. "Destroy every human world," Gregther declared. "Show the galaxy what happens to species that challenge council authority." But it was Elder Vexthelen's proposal that shocked the assembly into silence. "We must consider activating the Omega Protocol." The Omega Protocol was the Council's ultimate weapon, a device created by the mysterious architects before they vanished into deep space millions of years ago. The weapon could manipulate reality itself, erasing entire star systems from existence. Its use had been banned after the Void Wars nearly destroyed galactic civilization. Several delegations immediately walked out of the chamber. The aquatic depths dwellers refused to remain in the same room where such weapons were discussed. The crystalline resonance transmitted waves of psychic revulsion that made other species physically ill. "You cannot be serious," protested Minister Kelenara. The Omega Protocol was banned for good reasons. Its use could destabilize the fabric of spacetime itself. Elder Vexthelen's ancient eyes were cold and hard. "The humans represent a threat to everything we have built. They offer chaos where we have created order. They promise freedom where we have established stability. If we do not stop them, our entire civilization will collapse." The session continued for hours as delegates argued over humanity's true intentions. Intelligence reports painted a picture of a species that seemed genuinely committed to liberating other races rather than conquering them. Human diplomatic messages offered partnership instead of dominance. Their actions suggested they wanted to free the galaxy rather than rule it. "This makes them more dangerous, not less," Elder Vexthelen insisted. "An empire seeks to replace our order with their own. These humans seek to destroy order itself. They must be stopped." The meeting ended without resolution, but with a grim understanding that the council faced an existential threat. As delegates prepared to return to their homeworlds, none noticed the small probe that had been recording their secret deliberations from its hiding place in the station's communication array. The probe had been planted months earlier by Captain Nicole Davis of the human intelligence ship Shadowhawk. Her crew specialized in deep reconnaissance missions that kept human leadership informed about council activities. The probe's advanced design made it invisible to alien sensors while recording everything that happened in the chamber within hours of the meeting's end. The complete recordings were transmitted across space to Admiral Sullivan and the human command structure. Every word, every tactical discussion, every mention of forbidden weapons was analyzed by human intelligence officers. The news of the Council's desperation sparked immediate action throughout human space. Emergency evacuation plans were activated as civilian populations prepared to move to secure locations. The fleet began mobilization procedures that had been planned for decades but never implemented. Most importantly, Admiral Sullivan authorized Operation Righteous Fury, humanity's ultimate contingency plan for total war against the Galactic Council. Deep space shipyards that had been hidden since first contact began producing warships at maximum capacity. Secret training facilities graduated thousands of new soldiers every day. Research laboratories worked around the clock to develop weapons that could counter even the legendary Omega Protocol. The Council believed they were facing a primitive species that had gotten lucky in a few battles. They had no idea they were confronting an enemy that had been preparing for this war since the day humans first learned they were not alone in the universe. The galaxy was about to discover why humanity had survived every challenge their homeworld could throw at them. They were about to learn what happened when a species that had never known peace was finally given a reason to fight. The universe's warning was about to be proven true in the most devastating way possible. The final battle did not begin with ships or weapons. It began in the deepest layers of reality itself, where the basic rules of the universe could be changed by those who Understood them well enough? Dr. Angela Foster stood in the control room of Prometheus Deep, humanity's most secret research station hidden in the void between galaxies, and activated a device that made the Council's Omega Protocol look like a child's toy. The quantum mirror was humanity's greatest achievement. A machine that could strip away lies and force the universe to show what was real instead of what appeared to be true. When Foster activated it across the galactic core, every deception humanity had maintained for 2 centuries disappeared in an instant. The revelation shocked every species in the galaxy. The primitive human colonies the Council had discovered were revealed as decoys, hiding construction projects that spanned entire star systems. The small fleet that had attacked Corthic Prime was shown to be just a tiny fraction of humanity's true military power. Most stunning of all, humans had not been expanding into the galaxy for mere decades. They had been present among the stars. For over 200 years, Admiral Kate Sullivan broadcast from Earth itself, the world the Council believed was humanity's only significant planet. The planet they saw through their instruments bore no resemblance to the primitive world described in early reports. Massive space elevators stretched into orbit like silver threads connecting ground to sky. Continental cities housed billions of humans across every landmass. Orbital shipyards the size of moons constructed vessels that dwarfed anything in Council fleets. You wondered how we knew so much about your capabilities. Sullivan's voice carried across every communication channel. In the galaxy, we have been watching you for 200 years. We have been among you, learning from you, preparing for the day when your arrogance would threaten our people. The scope of human infiltration became clear as agents revealed themselves across Council space. Scientists who had worked in alien laboratories for decades removed their disguises. Diplomats who had advised Council leaders for years announced their true loyalties. Military officers who had served in alien fleets activated hidden programs that turned Council weapons against their creators. Captain Maria Santos led the Liberation Fleet that arrived at Corthic Prime to free the remaining human prisoners. Her task force included ships crewed by members of 17 different species, all united under human leadership. The Corthic defenders found themselves fighting not just humans but their own former subjects who had chosen freedom over protection. The reptilian score fought alongside human marines with a fierce joy that their former Corthic masters could not understand. The insectoid hive builders coordinated attacks with a precision that made human military tactics even more deadly. Species after species revealed that they had been secretly working with humanity for years, waiting for the moment when they could throw off Council control. Marine Colonel Rick Barnes led the assault on the Corthic prison complex where hundreds of humans from New Texas and other worlds had been held. His soldiers moved through the alien fortress like an unstoppable force, their advanced armor deflecting weapons that had terrorized the galaxy for millennia. Payback time, Barnes announced, as his troops breached the final defensive line. The Corthic guards who had tortured human prisoners found themselves facing enemies who showed no mercy and asked for no quarter. The Council's attempt to activate the Omega Protocol failed catastrophically when human agents embedded within their research stations revealed themselves at the critical moment. Dr. Carl Johnson, who had spent 15 years posing as a avoidant scientist, led a team that turned the reality-warping weapon against the Council's own command structure. Instead of destroying human worlds, the Omega Protocol revealed the corrupt foundations of Council authority that had been hidden for 3,000 years. The weapon stripped away the careful propaganda that had maintained Council control, showing minor species throughout the galaxy the truth of their so-called protection. The effect was immediate and devastating. Species across the galaxy saw that the Council had been harvesting their resources while keeping them weak and dependent. The generous protectorates were revealed as sophisticated forms of slavery. The wise guidance of elder species was shown to be manipulation designed to prevent client races from achieving independence. Elder Vexthalen's final transmission came from the dying Xanthari capital ship as human forces closed around Council. Nexus Prime? The ancient leader's voice carried the weight of a civilization's collapse. "We underestimated you completely," he admitted as explosions rocked his vessel. "You are not just another species seeking dominance. You are something far more dangerous. You are liberators who actually mean what they say." The war ended not with humanity conquering the Council species, but with the Council's authority crumbling under the weight of revealed truth. Species after species declared independence, choosing to join the Human Federation or establish their own free governments. The ancient system of control that had maintained galactic order for 3 millennia collapsed in a matter of months. The Xanthari Elder Council voted to dissolve their government and ask for human help in establishing a democratic system. The Korthik military command surrendered en masse when their own soldiers refused to fight for leaders who had lied to them for centuries. Even the proud Voidans abandoned their superiority complex when they realized that human technology had surpassed theirs decades ago. But the greatest victory came when the minor species that had suffered under Council rule began to flourish under human protection. The aquatic tidal swimmers established their first independent government in 1,000 years. The crystalline songweavers created art that expressed joy instead of sorrow for the first time in living memory. The gaseous windriders explored new territories that the Council had forbidden them to enter. Ambassador Jake Morrison, the diplomat who had first refused Council protection, stood in the rebuilt assembly chamber at Nexus Prime as humanity's first elected representative to the free galaxy. The walls displayed a simple inscription in every known language: "Never underestimate a species that calls itself humanity. They may appear weak, but they are freedom itself given form." Representatives from 47 species attended the first session of the new Galactic Assembly. The chamber looked similar to the old Council meeting place, but the atmosphere was completely different. Instead of species being told their place in a grand order, they debated as equals about shared challenges and opportunities. The Assembly's first act was to establish the Universal Declaration of Sapient Rights, guaranteeing self-determination to every intelligent species. The document was written primarily by human legal scholars, but it incorporated wisdom from dozens of different cultures and civilizations. "No species shall rule over another," Morrison read from the declaration. "No government shall claim authority over people who have not chosen to grant it. No civilization shall be denied the right to determine its own destiny among the stars." The ceremony was interrupted by an unexpected transmission from the edge of the galaxy. Deep space monitoring stations detected a signal originating from beyond the galactic rim, where the ancient architects had withdrawn eons ago. The message was simple but profound. "The warning we left among the stars has been vindicated. Humanity has awakened. The universe will never be the same." The architects, the mysterious builders of the Omega Protocol and the original designers of galactic civilization, had been watching from their exile as their children learned to walk without guidance. They had left humanity as a safeguard against the day when their carefully constructed order became a prison instead of protection. "Our children have grown beyond the need for our control," the message continued. "The age of guardianship is over. The age of freedom has begun. We withdraw our final protections and leave the galaxy to those who have earned the right to shape their own destiny." In star systems across the galaxy, former Council subjects looked up at night skies filled with human ships and whispered the phrase that had become legend: "Never provoke humanity. They do not just fight, they liberate." The universe's warning, ignored for so long by the Galactic Council, had proven prophetic in the most dramatic way possible. Humanity's greatest strength had never been their technology or their military might. It was their absolute refusal to accept that any species should live under the domination of another. In fighting for their own freedom, they had freed the galaxy itself. The stars belonged to everyone now, and the future was whatever free people chose to make it. The universe would never be the same, and that was exactly what humanity had always intended.